If you're shooting with a Nikon D3400 and would like to know more about native selective coloring within this camera, stay tuned. This video is for you. Since starting my Instagram account and posting a handful of images with selective coloring, I've received a lot of questions. How do you do it? Well, typically I use Adobe Lightroom. Now I realize that not everyone has Adobe Lightroom, and I will create a video on how to use selective coloring within Lightroom. But for now, I wanted to stay with this camera right here, the Nikon D3400. I know many of you have it, and it is one of the most popular entry-level DSLRs on the market today. Now this camera has the ability inside itself to choose selective coloring. Now it's really pretty interesting, and it's a nice little feature, and I'm going to show you exactly how to use it. This is going to be a relatively quick video. Now behind me I have some bushes, and inside those bushes I laid an American flag. Why? Because it's good contrast against the green background. So we're going to use selective coloring on that flag. I'm going to show you just how to do it, so let's jump right in and make it happen. Now, I have this camera sitting on a tripod, but you definitely do not need a tripod for this. I'm only doing it for demonstration purposes. Now, as you can see, I have the American flag right behind me. And this is really going to make for a good subject matter for this demonstration. Now, I'm going to shoot in RAW, and keep in mind you can shoot in JPEG as well. But when we leverage this feature, what happens is this. You're going to take your shot just as you would any other shot, and the selective coloring occurs after you take the shot. Now this camera also has the ability to do selective coloring before the shot, but I really don't like that idea, because if you do that, you will lose all the color. So the best approach here is to take your image, any image you want, and then choose the selective color after. Now when you do this, your camera will automatically save a brand new JPEG image. Even though I'm shooting in RAW, when I do this selective color, it's going to be a JPEG image, so I'm going to end up with two images. It's a nice little feature. So how does this work? Let's go ahead and jump on the back of this camera. It's bright outside, and that means it's going to be a little difficult to see the back of this screen, but we'll do the best with what we have. Now, I'm going to go over how this camera's set up, but I want you to understand it doesn't really matter how your camera's set up, just as long as you take the shot you want to take. This camera is set up in aperture priority, which is notated by the A in the upper left-hand corner. And that means that the camera is controlling the shutter speed. Right now, the shutter speed is at 1/100th of a second. Our aperture is 5.6, and our ISO is set to 200. Now, as many of you know, I'm not a big fan of using live view to lock focus. I simply feel that the camera lacks the precision to make that happen. But for the sake of this demo, I'm going to go ahead and use live view. So I'm going to press the button right here. Now this opens the camera up so we can see the subject in front of us, and in this case, it is the American flag. Now, something else you may know is that I like back button focus. And that essentially means that my button up here on the top is set to lock focus. Now, if you're not familiar with that, I'll post a link in the description below as to where you can see that video and how you can set it up for yourself. I'm going to go ahead and lock focus. Focus is now locked on the American flag, and I'm going to go ahead and take the shot. And now our shot is rendered, and you can see it on the screen. What I like to do is go ahead and hit the play button up here in the upper left-hand corner. Now this takes us back to live view. Hit play button again, and it's going to bring the image up. Now in order to apply selective coloring, keeping in mind you can do this for any image you've previously taken, you're going to go ahead and hit the I button in the bottom left-hand corner. And this is going to bring up a menu for you. You're going to go ahead and select the option for retouch. You're going to do that by using your pad on the right-hand side and hitting the OK button. Now when you do this, there's a bunch of different options in here. You can see all these different things like fisheye and filter effects, and all of these options can be applied to the image that you have up on your screen. So in this case, we want to go to selective color. I'm going to go ahead and hit the OK button in the middle of the pad here, and it's going to render the image. Now what you'll notice here at the top is 3 different options. Now these options allow you to choose 3 different colors along with the intensity. So how do we do this? Well, we want to use the magnifying glass to zoom in on the image and identify the specific color that we want to lock in on. Now there's a small yellow square in the middle of the screen. I don't know how well we'll be able to see this on the video, but it's there, trust me. And what I'm going to do is place it on top of the red in the American flag. Now with that on there, what you need to do is press your exposure focus lock button, which is what I use for the back button focus. It's the same button, so it's up here on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and press this, and you'll notice here in the upper left-hand corner it has selected red as its first selective color. Now what I'm going to do is use the dial here in the upper right-hand corner, and this is going to allow me to move over to the intensity of that color. So it basically means how intense do I want this color to be in the image? How broad do I want it to be? So right here, you can use the pad, and it starts off with 3, which is right in the middle. Now this will go up to 7, so if I just push up, it's increasing the number. And that means it's going to have more leniency with that color, which means there'll be more reds inside your image. If you want to be tighter or more restrictive with the color, you can go all the way down to 1. But in this case, I'm just going to leave it on 3. And you can see a preview of the image on the screen itself, and right now, red is the only selected color, and it looks nice. But the American flag also has blue, so I'm going to go ahead and select blue as well. I'm going to use the dial up here in the upper right-hand corner again, just rotate to the right, and it's going to put it on the next selective color I want to choose. I'm going to use the magnifying glass and zoom back in on the image, and I'm going to put my yellow square on top of blue somewhere, and that looks good right there. I'm going to go ahead and select that color again by hitting my exposure focus lock button up here at the top. And if I want to, again, I can increase or decrease the intensity of it, but I'm going to leave it at 3. Now I can tell by previewing this image on the back, it looks good. Now with that said, I'm going to go ahead and save this image by hitting the OK button right here. And what this is going to do is save a JPEG with this selective coloring applied. And there you have it. I'm going to show you these side by side, the before and now the after. I hope this video has inspired you to go out and take some selective color photos. I really like these photos because I feel they help make an image pop. You can isolate the color in a given scene and really draw the viewer's attention to it. Now, as I mentioned before, I like to use Adobe Lightroom, but I also recognize that not everybody has Adobe Lightroom. So if you have a camera like this right here, just know you have some built-in features to really help with this functionality. I think it was cool that Nikon did what they did, and I think by this demonstration you can see that it works pretty well. Now, I'll come out with a video at some point on how to use Adobe Lightroom to do selective coloring, because I think you have more creativity using a package like that. But again, this camera did a decent job in my opinion, and if you haven't used that feature or function, grab your camera, go out there, explore, have some fun with it. And I want you to also know that a couple of months ago, I started up an Instagram account, and I've had a lot of fun out there. I've posted a lot of images, and I know many of you have followed me. And if you haven't done so and you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm going to post a link in the description below as to how you can find me. Now, if this video has helped you out, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. It's called Real World. More often than not, I post videos about photography and technology, but you never know. So until the next video, take care of yourself and be safe.